show you that you're, because I'm standing in front of you here. If you met me as a child, you would not believe that I can turn out to be the woman I am today or the person that I am today. I don't even think my mom thought for the life of her. She probably thought of all my children, I don't know what I'm going to do with this one. So it is possible to break through all the barriers. And even if you have a difficult child or you've been through difficulties yourself and you're kind of like wondering where life will take you, which is very much in line with what Lola has been talking about in terms of unleashing. So I'm going to ask you this question: when you gave birth to your children, if you have a child there, and even if you don't, you can understand what I'm saying. So there's usually, you'd see that people will talk about the physical health of the child. You're worried, you know, what's my child going to, what kind of food would my child be eating, safety, I don't want my child to do this, I don't want my child to do that. And you also see people being concerned about the spiritual health of their children, like, I want my child to go to church, I want my child to have good morals and all that. But the truth is, nobody actually looks out for the emotional health of children. We actually allow it be. We don't, what I mean, like, we don't look out in terms of, we don't consciously, intentionally work on it. We work on other things, but we don't intentionally work on it. So we're not so quick to think, actually, I don't want my child to hear these words, to listen to these words. I don't want my child to see these things, because for what builds you up are the things you hear, you see, you experience. People usually think, oh, we think of the little bits of it, we don't think about the totality of it. It's not just what someone says to you, it's what you hear constantly, what you see, the environment you're in, the people around you. Those are all the things that form your past experience. Two people can live in the same house and come out with completely different experiences. So for example, I came from a broken home, my parents separated. For me, what I took out of that is I was going to stay in my marriage if I got married, because I saw the effect on me as a child, and so I held on to marriage with my two hands. And there's a downside to that and there's a good side to that. Good side is I'll probably work a bit harder at my marriage than maybe other people would. But the downside to that is it also could mean that I take anything, including what I'm not supposed to accept in the marriage, because I'm holding up with my 2 feet. I have a sibling who took out, like, their perception of marriage is like, listen, as soon as it's going wrong, I'm out of there. I'm not staying because my children would not go through. And so it means, for them, it means that they're probably not going to give it a chance because they're going to run very quickly. And maybe it could have worked better. I have another sibling who actually felt like, you know what? I think this is an African thing. I think I would not go with the Africans. I'll just go with Caucasians or some people who won't bother me because this probably witnessed all the family squabble with the parents and thinking, you know what, there's too much drama with African families, I'll walk away. And I have a sibling, and my final sibling, his take was, he was scared of commitment. He'll ring me ever so often and be like, I don't think I can do this, I don't think I can do this. So, and I'm always having to encourage that sibling. So I'm saying this to you, like 4 of us lived in the same house, but we took away different things from it, which then means that with your children, you need to be intentional about each child. They may be living in the same home, you may be doing the same things for them, but their take of it is completely different. I went to a boarding school, so did my older sister. My sister had the time of her life in boarding school. She enjoyed it. I was traumatized by boarding school, but both of us had to stay there. But my parents didn't know that, and that's probably why I found God at a very early age, because I had nothing else to depend on. I was such a traumatized child in boarding school. So all I'm saying is you need to learn to know your children individually. Okay, statistics. So right now the statistics out there says that 1 in every 10 children would most likely suffer a breakdown in their young age. In girls, it's 1 in 4. And there's another statistics in the UK that says 45% of children between their young age and maturing into adults will suffer psychological breakdown. So it's high. Statistics are high. And that's why we actually need to be very clued up about what's going on with our children and how to support them. Some of us sitting here today, this would resonate with you because some of the things I've mentioned, you can probably think about little things in your life that have shaped you in a certain way. Honest truth about that is, it's not like parents are bad. You're not a bad parent, and your parents are not bad parents. but you can't give what you don't have. And so what they knew how to do is what they did, but that didn't mean it worked for you. They did what they, so what we're saying is, as much as there's certain ways you can be and you're formed as a person, you need to be very, very intentional about how you deal with your children. So I'm going to tell you something very quickly also about that. For every one of us, 90% of your actions every day comes from your subconscious. Only 10 comes from your conscious. So that tells me that 90% of your actions in any situation comes from what you stored in yourself from the past, or what has been stored in you. You don't have control of that. And there's only 10% of you that can act right now. And when you think about it, it means that every experience, everything that happens to your children is very important. Because in the future, there's sometimes that you've been joking around with someone, and they just say one word, and you just flip to the other side, you just get angry. Even the person is confused that we were playing a minute ago. But it's not what they told you right now. That word means something to you in your past, or in something you've stored, an incident that has happened before now. And so that's actually what will trigger that emotion. It's not what they're saying to you right now that triggers it. So that means that if we know that, it means that when anything you're going through, or anything that is happening to you right now, you need to pause for a minute and bring yourself to use your 10% to act. Because if you act the way you feel, you'll be coming from your subconscious. It won't be what is happening to you right now that is triggering what you're doing. So basically, what populates your mind, I think I already talked about that. That is everything, including when you were driving past and two people were shouting at each other, and you stop for a moment, like we do like gist, or you just listen to someone saying something, and you walk away, and as far as you're concerned, it's not my business, had nothing to do with me. You'll be amazed that the day someone is telling a story, you'll be like, yeah, I remember one day when I was driving past. That's how you know that the things you ignored and you walked past and you thought, that didn't mean anything to me. You'll be surprised that you stored them. And that's why when incidents happen around your children, even though you didn't directly affect them, you need to talk to them about it. You need to address it with them, because you need to understand the perception they took away from that incident. Then that way, if they've taken away a perception that you think, this is too negative, then you can help that child view the situation differently so that they can store the information differently. Otherwise, they go away with something that you don't know. So I'm going to ask you this question. Where is your mind located? Where is your mind? No, where is your actual mind? Where is your mind? Where is it located in you? You can point to where you think it is. Okay, so that's what I expected. I have a mixture of hearts, and one person pointed to their head. Actually, your mind is in your brain. I'll tell you why you think it's in your heart though. It's because the response to your mind is your emotions. So that's why you feel it's in your heart, because it's your emotions that respond to your mind. So what happens in your mind takes place in your brain, and that's why you can store it, because your brain is the storage. You can't store it here, that's where you store it. But the action that comes from it is from that's why you think it is stored in your mind. Okay, so the mind is a powerhouse. Oh, sorry, I wanted someone to read Proverbs 4:23. Has anyone got a Bible? I just wanted to say something very quickly about the mind, because sometimes it's good for us to know that there is more, yes, thank you.
Proverbs 4:23, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life.
God, so it's in the Bible. Your mind determines the course of your life. You have to guard it. If God has said it in the Bible, then that should be. Some versions tell you from the issues of life flow from your mind. There's nothing else to tell you about that. That is so explicit in terms of how powerful your mind is. Your mind is your powerhouse. So it doesn't matter if your mind is not right. They can tell you about God, and you can be told to unleash. If your mind is not right and something is holding you back, the message will not sit right with you. You won't be able to process it because you've got things that are stopping you inside of you. If your mind is not right, it would eventually affect your physical health, because you're constantly stressed. You're constantly putting your body in a difficult position, to the extent that people start to have high blood pressure, pain here, neck, leg, everywhere is hurting. We seem to tie these things in with as you're getting older. You're not supposed to have the pain, but you're carrying, your weight is getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and they're impacting you. So your mind is your powerhouse. Everything else you do rests on your mind, and you need to teach this to your children very quickly, because they're young, they're able, now they're at that point in their life where they need to know these things. They've got a whole life ahead of them. We've seen children that have been affected by things that have happened. There's so much stories to share about the past. Don't think I have enough time to do that. I'll let you watch another vlog. That's the video I wanted to show you, so I'll just tell you. I met this lady a couple of months ago on the train, and she was very concerned because her son had just suffered a mental breakdown, and she basically blamed it on the drugs, that the boy had taken drugs, he'd been with the wrong crowd, and she was very upset about it and talked about the fact, the disappointment, the feeling like, did I do something wrong? All the usual feelings we go through when things are not going so well. And we carried on talking, encouraging her. Eventually I got to meet her son. And this is what her son had to say. So this young boy was born in southeastern Africa. His mom and dad were not together, so his mother had him quite young. But he occasionally saw his dad, but there was always like trouble, they were always arguing, so he didn't see much of his dad. And that was already, sort of like he wanted to be in connection, he wanted to be in touch with his dad basically, and he didn't have that opportunity. Now eventually, at some point, mom said, you know what, I'm going away for some time, stay with grandma, and I'll be back to get you at some point. So mom came to England. And this boy carried on living with grandma, and they had their life. You know how grandmothers are. Looked after him, had his life. He was happy. He was used to the situation he's in. It's a known environment and all that. A couple of years later, mom comes back, and mom comes to get him, to bring him abroad. And he wanted his grandma to come. And mom was like, grandma will join us later. But that was just a way to help him along, because he might not want to leave his grandma, because it formed very strong bonds with his grandma. Anyway, he got to the UK. Mom had met another man, married, and had 2 other children. So he then met them. It's interesting. He was happy to have a family, but there was a side of him that felt, you're not my dad. And it wasn't anything to do with what the man did. He just naturally felt, it shouldn't be you here, it should be my dad. That's an expected reaction from a young person. But he loved the 2 kids. He was happy about that. But somehow, as they carried on, this boy didn't really feel a part of the family, because he'd grown up in a different place with his grandmother and in a different life, and everything here is strange to him, and it was a bit difficult. But anyway, he was to start school. He was happy about starting school. At least I get to see people my age and go there. This boy started school, and because of the way he spoke, he's from southeastern Africa, the kids in school laughed at him. Because they laughed at him, he stopped talking in class. He didn't answer any questions, and he didn't ask any questions because people were laughing at him. And that was quite embarrassing because of his accent, so he stopped talking. Of course, the teachers saw that as this boy doesn't want to engage, he's not interested in school, and they constantly reported him or sent letters home and emails. And of course, mom reacted to all of that, because how can your school be sending in emails every day and this and, always in trouble, and mom was not happy with him at all. So he had it in school and he had it at home as well. And as this boy grew as well, he ended up with a bit of acne on his face as he matured, and the boys started to call him spotty in school as well. So school was just a no-no for him. He absolutely hated school. But home was not very pleasant as well, because he was always in trouble in school. And apparently he tried to speak to his mom a few times. He said, actually, one of the few times he tried to speak to his mom, when he said, oh, the boys in school are laughing at me and this, you know how African parents can be. It was like, really? People your age are making you cry? Whose child are you? I did not give birth to a weakling. Get yourself back there and go and sort yourself out, kind of thing. We do that. We do that. So of course this boy stopped talking to his mom about it, because he was like, I'm a weakling, I'm embarrassed, so he could no longer discuss these issues with his mom. So he just basically lived with it. He basically lived with it until the point where he could no longer take it. There were these naughty boys in school usually in the playground, don't take part in school, don't take part in anything. He decided to join them because they were quite bold and he needed some boldness to carry on in school. Anyway, that was basically the beginning of the problem, because obviously he ended up with drugs and all that. Anyway, and that's, I'll leave the story there. But what I'm trying to say is, mom's perception of what was happening is different from, his name is actually Martin, not his real name, but that's the name I call him on my videos. It's different from his perception or what he actually has been through. And mom didn't see all of that and didn't know all of that. And what has this mother done wrong? Absolutely nothing. She wanted a better life for her child. She wanted a family. She wanted life to be normal. But what was normal for her was not what was normal for her child. Their perceptions were different. But she needed to know that. I don't know if she could have done things differently, necessarily not. But she could have had these conversations with this boy. She could have explained to him, she could have talked to him about how life doesn't always go the way you want it to. About how certain things make us in certain ways. She could have looked for the strength in that. That sometimes when life beats you down and it's not going the way you want to, it's strength for you to develop. These are the messages we need to give our children. We need to let our children be expectant of the fact that there are ups and downs in life, and that life doesn't always go smooth. But that you use those things as lessons and stumbling blocks. You use them to rise and become a better person. You learn lessons from them. These are the sort of things that she needed to be close to the boy. Imagine that they had 2 younger siblings, so obviously she's focusing on them because they're younger. And that would happen with any mother. You can't be focusing on the big, tall person in front of you when you have 2 younger children. Amazingly enough, even though he had a bigger size, he had more needs than the little ones. And that's what we need to look out for. So your child might look like that. You need to be sensitive to all the children you have. Their size doesn't matter. Their age doesn't matter. Who they are matters. Their experience matters. And that's what tells you who needs you more. That's what tells you who you need to deal with in a certain way. We're used to doing it in age order, but that's not the usual solution to what's going on with our children. You need to look at your children individually and see how you can help. Yes, I put don't overprotect. There are 2 things. So I know a lady right now whose children, grandchildren, everybody's complaining about this wonderful woman. She's beautiful, she's lovely, she's very nice. But guess what? She can't do anything for anybody else, not even a grandchild can, but she wants everybody to do everything for her. But guess what? She was overprotected as a child. She was given everything. She had even a maid from a young age. She had everything she wants. She had a whole life. So she doesn't know how to look after anybody else. And so now that she's grown up into an adult, her children and her grandchildren think that they can't believe who she's turned out to be, where other grandmas are running around trying to, she's like, nah, serve me, look after me, I am all that matters, I'm a queen here. But she's always been treated like a queen since she was young. And on the other hand, yes, so that's the don't overprotect. And of course, don't neglect, that's don't overprotect. And the don't neglect them is, you know, you may feel, why should that make you cry? You may feel, why are you like this? But the truth is, those are telltale signs. You just can't, you can't hide what you're going through. I remember one of my children, all of a sudden, she'll just go like very irritable, just fighting with everybody in the house. And I'm thinking, this one child. But after studying her for a while, I realized that when I gave her a treat, things seemed to settle. And then it occurred to me, that was her response to hunger. If she hadn't eaten, she had a very fast metabolism, and so if she's not eating, that's how she reacts. She just gets irritable. So now I know when she starts, I'm like, honey, there's pasta in the fridge. Come, there's something in my bag. At least that stops this child, what's going on with you? Don't kill me kind of thing. So yes, you need to get to know your children. Yeah, and search within. Emotional health is a vicious cycle. You carry things in you that you don't know. And you need to search yourself. So some people, we have funny rules. So I know someone who doesn't do sleepover. The reason they don't do sleepover, for example, is because when they were, either you've heard stories about all sorts of things that have happened, but actually this particular person I'm talking about, they had a situation where they were supposed to do sleepover at their grandparents' house, but one of their cousins, that's another problem we have, who was maturing and becoming, you know, a grown boy, was asking them very inquisitive questions about females. And that sort of, you know, that sort of stayed in their mind that before even though an even cousin can start quizzing your child, and so they will never ever do sleepovers. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong to do sleepovers. All I'm saying is some of the decisions we make today are based on our experiences, and sometimes we need to look at that. Whether your child understands, you can explain to your child why you don't do something. Don't just create a rule and say this is the rule and that's how we're doing it. Because your children, when I speak to a lot of children, I know children who just say, my parents are just wicked, pure wicked people. And I'm like, why? Oh, I think they gave birth to me to make my life a living hell. They don't allow me to do anything, they don't give me anything. If you're going to make decisions, tell your children why you're making them. You know, it's interesting, we don't share experiences with your children, with our children. You should. There's certain experiences depending on their age. There's certain experiences for some ages and there's some for older ages. But as they go, you need to tell them your life experiences so that they understand who you are and why you say certain things. And that helps with how you're dealing with your children. So basically, I'm saying search within yourself and look at some of the things that you tell your children to do and not to do. And one big one, I love the African culture and it's beautiful, but I want us to remember where some of us lived in it and we understand how it works, and it was the same for everybody around us. The children that you have, some of them don't know that culture. And so when you're screaming, if this was Africa, this is what, they don't know what you're talking about. It's the same thing about as when you're talking about Moses in the Bible. They don't know Moses, so they don't know what you're talking about. So don't kill them for it, because they don't understand it. I had a discussion with a lady one day who said to me, if I see any child in the middle of a shopping center anywhere that is my friend's daughter, and they don't kneel down and greet me, oh, I will deal with them. And I said to this lady, perhaps what you need to think about is your children are in a mixed society with other children who don't know your culture. And so you should think about it sometimes. Would you have that child kneel down, and then when you turn your back and go, all their friends are laughing at them? Are you going to leave your child traumatized by their friends' behavior and lack of understanding of what they've just done? Or are you just going to accept a fair greeting, knowing that when you get to an African setting or you get to your home, that child does not greet you that way? You know they greet you properly. You can allow them in that period where they're in a place, because sometimes we leave these children with a lot of embarrassment and shame, and it affects the people that help them with the people around them. And I think majorly that's what I'm going to tell you today, because I could open up a whole can of worms. But please, and yes, I remember one thing actually. I was trying to explain our life and our children's life to a friend, and I said, it feels like, when they have, it feels like, okay, so life is like the journey of life is like going on a train. And I said that, and that train is moving so fast and things are changing. And I said that it's like some of us are refusing to hop on that train. We're insistent that we're going to stay where we are. And we're asking our children, join me here. And the train is moving. And they're going farther and farther away. And that's how we lose our relationships with our children, because you're insisting that this is how they did it in my days. I'm so sorry, but those days don't exist anymore. We need to move with what is good. And I said you need to hop on that train with your child so that you can hold your child's hand and navigate them with your experiences in life. And that's what you can do for your child. If you stay where you are, your child is on the train anyway, and they're going to be far away from you. So I'm hoping that this would open your hearts differently.